And welcome back to Littles By Lira. Today we're going to make a wicked fairy specimen. To start, I have these roses I got in springtime at Dollar Tree, but I'm fairly certain they have purple right now, being Halloween season and all. They also have black, so you can completely skip this step altogether if you find the black ones. Or, you know what? It's your fairy. You decide how wicked she is and what color flowers her clothing becomes. After I disassemble the flower, and it's really easy, you pull off the bud, then you pull off the little green plastic leafy part, and then you just start pulling it apart. There's a couple little plastic cages. Remove those two and set them to the side. We're only going to need to use two petals from this, or not two petals, but two layers from this rose, the very inside and the next biggest one, which is actually the same as the third biggest one. So the small one and one of the big ones. If that doesn't make any sense, I apologize. I've had a little too much coffee today. I take some Waverly chalk paint in the color ink and paint the rose black. And then while the paint is still wet, I found this pretty black glitter at Walmart. I think it was under $4, and just sprinkle it over the petals of the flower. After that's done, I flip it over and drop off the extra glitter onto a sheet of paper so that I can catch it and return it to the bottle because waste not, want not. And then I flip the petals opposite of the way they're curled. This will give them a little more body, and once it dries, they will be more firm and hold their shape better. I repeat the process for the other purple flower as well. So I hope you guys are really enjoying the Halloween crafts. This is a fun time for me. I like decorating for Halloween. I am not by any stretch of the imagination a spooky kind of person, but you know, at Halloween I do kind of enjoy just dabbling a little bit. If you hear any sniffling today, I do apologize. It is still allergy season, because for me, every day is allergy season. You see here, I'm just taking that scrap of paper, folding it up, and pouring the glitter back into the bottle. And I set my roses off to the side to dry. While they're drying, I grab one of the wood stems from the Dollar Tree. You can also grab one from your backyard if you so desire. And I take the last of one of my skeletons from the Dollar Tree and cut the plastic hanger and twine off the top. Now, my fairy is going to sit on this little wood circle, so I bend her knees just a little bit. The plastic is soft enough to take a bend to them. Now, it's not a perfect, permanent, forever bend, but for the way we're using the skeleton, it should work fine for this project. I'll make sure that, once the knees are bent, she'll fit nicely onto the stump. And I decide that my fairy needs to be, demure. So I take a bit of hot glue and I glue the ankles together. Not only will this help keep the knees bent, it will also just make her look a little classier. Just because you're evil doesn't mean you have bad manners. Just saying. Okay, so I figured out that that works, and she will do just fine sitting on the stump. Put that down for a moment and grab a pop tab from a soda can. Because she is an evil fairy, she has been captured and she needs to wear manacles. If you play with the finger bones of the skeleton enough, you should be able to slide the hands into each of the circle openings of the pop tab. Now, I left mine the aluminum color. Fun fact, in fairy lore, fairies are pretty much allergic to cold iron, and I think this kind of looks, cold irony to me. Irony? Oh my goodness, it really has been a too much coffee day. But you can paint it, you can add beads or gemstones or whatever and totally glam it up if you so desire. I noticed that the coloring for the fairy, it's kind of like a plastic paint that they use to color the skeletons. Well, the plastic paint fell out of one of the eyes, so I just dipped the end of a paintbrush into the ink color by Waverly and just filled in the eye sockets so that they are both black. Next, I'm going to take some of this spider webbing, also from the Dollar Tree, and just pull out a little chunk. This stuff is fantastic for doing hair on skeletons because it's webby and creepy, and it pulls together a little bit, goes a super, super long way. And I do make a fair amount of skeleton projects. You'll be seeing those in the next couple days. Keep an eye out. It works really well for doing, hair. Once I get a little piece pulled off, I twist it up at the top just to hold it together. I run it looks like a headband of hot glue across the top of the skull. And then I put the webbing over top of that. In retrospect, I wish I would have done the hair last because this stuff is kind of sticky. It's very web-like, and the more you pull it apart, the more web-like it becomes. So be forewarned, you may want to put the hair on as the last step. But you see, it gives her long white tresses of creepiness. Ooh, shivers and all the things. So once that's done, of course, I have to have her stick to everything in the world. I just mess around with her hair until it looks, something resembling a hairstyle. She's got a little bit of bangs, or if you're in the UK, a fringe, and then the long hair. I realize at this point that the manacles have gone on too soon because this broad needs to be dressed. I hope that's not sexist to say this female needs to be dressed. Whatever. I take the smaller of the two flower petals, the petal collections, and I cut one off, leaving 3 still attached. I set that small one off to the side and then make a small hemline at the top edge of one of the flowers. I just put some hot glue on there and fold it over. If you guys hear jingling, it is not Christmas time. It is my cat. She is viciously attacking me and trying to eat my arm. Maybe someday I will post a picture of the channel's namesake. She's also our creative director. And by creative director, if I'm crafting too slowly, she steals my projects and then I have to start all over again because she's a monster. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Once I get the hemline done for the front petal, I run some hot glue over her collarbone and adhere the flower petal to become the bodice of her gown. Then, flipping her over, pulling her hair out of the way, I run a little bit of hot glue on the back of her pelvis bone and secure the opposite side flower petal, and then a little bit more glue onto that and put the third petal sort of like a X formation across it over the back. And she's in a lovely little mini dress, except the front goes way too far up. So we're going to use that other flower petal collection. We're going to make one slice up the middle so that it separates them out, but not completely separates them. So they're still all 4 attached. It's just cut in sort of half. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to explain that part, but you can see what I'm doing. And then feeding the slit part of the flower petals over her waist and glue those down into place. Once they're glued down into place, she can put her manacles back on, or we can do it for her, because one, I don't think a wicked fairy would voluntarily put herself in jail, and two, it's an inanimate object and they really don't do that themselves. Well, yeah, you know how it goes. So, little fussing, little tweaking, and the hands begin to slip into the manacles. Once the manacles are back in place, I flip her over, put a little hot glue on her bottom, and seat her firmly onto the wooden cutout. And, just mess with her until she's in a good position. Next, I have some butterfly stickers from the Dollar Tree. These are purple butterflies, which I thought matched fairly nicely, and the one that I chose is a purpley black. Notice that I only pulled the 3-dimensional one off, so leaving the other 2-dimensional sticker on the sticker sheet for later use. I have the butterfly wings. I trim off the antennas and I fold it in half. Make sure to go over it with my fingernails to make sure that it is a firm fold or sharp crease, or however you would like to say it. When that's done, I'm just going to run some hot glue down her spine. Oh, that just sounds terrible. And adhere the butterfly wings to the back of our fairy, thus making her a fairy instead of a tiny little human. And by tiny little human, I mean Thumbelina, not a child. So, here you see, this is the creasing part, making sure that's good and sharply folded, and then open it up. I noticed that when you put the hot glue on, it reacts with the plastic and makes the plastic kind of open out a little more, the plastic of the wings. So no matter how sharp you crease it, unless you cut it directly in half, it's going to open back up and kind of give a fluttery effect. And here I am just messing around with her. Sorry guys, I should have cut more of this out. I do apologize. And you notice there's a lot of glitter fallout, which is why I'm still working on that sheet of paper. You can spray the fairy dress with a little bit of aerosol hairspray, and that will lock your glitter into place. Notice that this was just way too much darkness on top of darkness on top of darkness. So I grabbed one of the rose petals from the roses that we were using. I'm going to cut it apart into 3 different leaves. Oh, here I am, saving that glitter, because again, waste not, want not. Take those 2 of the 3 leaves and dovetail the ends so that it will lay nicely across her hips and waist. Next, I wanted to give her some little kind of a headdress, so I took that 4th petal that we cut off from the bodice part of the dress, and I'm just going to fold it over, hot glue, fold it over one more time, hot glue, and adhere it to the top of her head. You know, a little fairy hat of a flower. I don't know. I thought it looked cute. You can use gemstones or whatever on this part too if you have them available. I did not, and so a flower petal it is. And nobody says it has to be an evil fairy queen. It can just be a straight up evil fairy. Not all fairies have gems, just saying. After I put the hot glue on it to round out the front edge, I just played with it a little bit to try and give it a rounded shape with my fingers, and then pressed it down to adhere it to the plastic of the skull and the webbing of the hair. And it holds super, super well. Hey lads and lassies, do you like what you're seeing? Would you like to see more? Well then, hit that like button and subscribe, of course. Remember to ring the bell and share and comment too if you know someone who will enjoy it. Thank you so much. Next, I'm gonna grab a Dollar Tree cloche. They're the ones that come out, well, they're pretty much out year round out here. I'm gonna peel the label off, and the labels come off super easy, which is great because when you're dealing with a clear plastic like this, it's nice not to have to mess with the residue. Fun fact, if you use acetone to get the plastic sticky stuff off, it will frost your cloche, just so you know. I took a little Spanish moss and I'm just putting it down on the bottom. I don't need really to hot glue it because with her sitting on the stump, she'll go all the way to the top of the cloche and keep her pressed firmly in place. And there's enough going on in here where I'm not worried about anything flopping and floating all around. I mean, I guess if you picked it up and shook it really hard, that would work to mess it up, but why would you do that? Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.